The following podcast contains bizarre theories, strange facts, and some out-of-this-world opinions. Listener discretion is advised, especially if you trust the government. So you buy a ranch, a big, beautiful stretch of land out in Utah. You move your family there, kids, dogs, cattle. Within weeks, cattle are found mutilated. Strange orbs of light float around your fields at night. Your dogs chase after something unseen and vanish. Invisible forces slam doors, move objects, and terrorize your family. All within the first month. This is Skinwalker Ranch, and welcome to Conspiracy. Conspiracy. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Conspiracy, the show where no story's too strange, no theory too far-fetched, and no one is safe from our deep dives into the unknown. Basically, your favourite podcast that feels like that weirdly fascinating debate in the pub after a few beers. I'm Ash, your host, your guide into the world of conspiracies, occasional devil's advocate, and professional mystery solver, although that last one is definitely self-proclaimed. If you're new around here, welcome. We cover conspiracy theories, weird mysteries, ancient histories, all whilst having a bit of a laugh. So join me every Wednesday and make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find all episodes of Conspiracy for free on Spotify or wherever your little ears listen to my podcast. You lot allow me to do this, so please let me know how I'm doing. Reach out on TikTok and Instagram at Conspiracy or via email conspiracy@gmail.com. And if you do enjoy the episode, get those tippy-tappy fingers and leave me a review. Seriously, it's going to help me a lot to kick the algorithm's ass. So yeah, please leave me a review, guys. I really appreciate that. With all that being said, today we are heading west to the dusty deserts of Utah, where a 500-acre ranch has been messing with people's heads, equipment, and cows for decades. This isn't just some haunted house with a weird attic. We're talking about Skinwalker Ranch, where you can see UFOs, get a mysterious brain injury, watch your cattle get dissected by unseen forces, and maybe, just maybe, stumble into another dimension. For anyone new to this madness, Skinwalker Ranch sits in the Uintah Basin in Utah. It's been a hotspot of bizarre phenomena for decades, maybe even centuries. The US government, billionaire UFO enthusiasts, and History Channel producers have all been drawn here trying to figure out what the hell is going on. So let's dive in, shall we? Alright, picture this. You're standing in the middle of Utah, not the postcard bit with the ski resorts and fancy parks. I'm talking about the Uintah Basin. Wide, empty land, red dirt, dry bush, long flat stretches where the horizon just hangs there forever. The sun beats down in the day, the cold bites at night, the nearest neighbours are miles away, and the nearest city is even further. It's isolated, it's harsh, it's the kind of place where if something went wrong, if something strange showed up, you better hope you got more than a phone signal and a prayer. So here's the question. Why the hell does this patch of Utah keep showing up in paranormal reports, UFO sightings, government black budget files, and late night conspiracy podcasts? Why here? Well, before Skinwalker Ranch became a playground for all of that, this land already had a dark name, the name that locals spoke of only in whispers. Skinwalker. Specifically the Ute tribe, who still live near the ranch even till today. Clearly haven't had enough of it. And if you ask them about this land, they won't tell you about aliens and all that stuff. They'll tell you about skinwalkers. So, what is a skinwalker and what the bloody hell is going on in this ranch? In Navajo legend, I think it's pronounced Navajo, or it could be Navajo or something like that. It's spelled Navajo. So if I am pronouncing that wrong, my bad. But let's crack on. So in Navajo legend, a skinwalker is actually a witch. Someone who's gained dark power through ritual, capable of transforming into animals, cursing people, and can walk between worlds. They're not trickster spirits or mischievous creatures. They're dangerous, malevolent, and they're not to be spoken about lightly. Essentially, they're the stuff of nightmares. So for centuries, local tribes believed the land around the ranch was cursed, not by random chance, but by deliberate ancient conflict. The Navajo and the Ute had a long and bloody conflict, and according to some legends, the Navajo may have cursed the land, unleashing skinwalkers on the Ute and the territory they occupied. So, when you walk onto Skinwalker Ranch, you're not just walking onto haunted land, you're walking into an ancient, ongoing, spiritual battleground. And to this day, the ranch sits on what the Ute call the path of the Skinwalker. So, why does this matter? Well, here's the thing. Most modern ghost stories, UFO stories, Bigfoot stories, they pop up recently, maybe a few decades old, maybe a century, but Skinwalker legends go back centuries. They predate the ranch, they predate the US government, they predate the idea of aliens and paranormal as we think of it, which means long before any ranchers showed up, there were already tales of weird stuff happening at this site. Strange lights, giant wolves, mysterious deaths, but, as is often the case, outsiders don't listen, and eventually someone came to settle. So let's say hello to the Sherman family. So in the 1990s, a family named the Shermans bought the ranch. They were cattle ranchers, no nonsense, practical folks. They weren't looking for ghosts or aliens, they just wanted the land, but almost immediately things went wrong. Within weeks, their cattle were found dead, not mauled or shot, but mutilated, blood drained, organs removed with surgical precision. They saw strange lights darting across the sky at night, their dogs vanished only to be found later as piles of ash, and a massive wolf. Yeah, far larger than any natural wolf apparently, approached their pen, let itself be petted, and then suddenly turned violent, attacking their livestock. When they shot it, the bullets did nothing. And all the while, the Shermans had the feeling they were being watched, not by people, but by something unseen. This wasn't a haunted house, this was something much bigger and much older. Locals heard the stories that the Shermans were throwing out there, and they said, that's no ordinary wolf, that's a skinwalker. So can you imagine moving to a ranch and within days you're blasting rounds into a supernatural werewolf like you're in a budget episode of Supernatural? Like, no chance. Get it back on Rightmove. I'm out. Janice, I think it's time to move. But this is what makes Skinwalker Ranch so uniquely interesting and terrifying, because most paranormal sites, they fall into one category. You've got the UFO angle or the ghost angle, cryptids, I don't know, spiritual curses, something like that. But this ranch, it mixes all of them. The ranch blurs the line between folk magic, advanced technology, paranormal events, and possibly interdimensional phenomena. And that's why we love it. And that's why we're doing a whole episode about the Skinwalker Ranch. Because you can't just say, oh, it's aliens or, oh, it's witches. Because it's all of it. And it's been all of it for centuries. So yeah, when the Shermans moved in, they didn't just buy a haunted house. They bought the epicenter of centuries of suspicion, fear, and mystery. So by 1996, the Sherman family had had enough. They've had enough. They're like, fuck this place. I've had enough of losing my cattle, enough of dodging invisible forces, enough of staring out their window at night wondering what was watching them back. So they sold the ranch, and good on them. They waited 2 years, but they should have been out way before. But not just to anyone. They sold it to Robert Bigelow. Yeah, the Bigelow. A Las Vegas billionaire with a passion for two things: building inflatable space habitats and proving the paranormal is real. So who is Robert Bigelow if you don't know? Bigelow wasn't just your typical businessman. He didn't just want to make money, he wanted answers. He's also a lifelong UFO believer. In fact, he poured millions into researching UFO encounters, consciousness survival after death, paranormal phenomena, and this is the man who once said, aliens are already here. He founded Bigelow Aerospace to also push the limits of space tech. But he also created NIDS, the National Institute for Discovery Science, which is a team of scientists, physicists, former military personnel, and paranormal researchers tasked specifically with investigating high strangeness phenomena. And Skinwalker Ranch, it was about to become their flagship project. So this is where the Bigelow era of Skinwalker Ranch begins, because Bigelow's team moved onto the ranch and they set up the following: 24/7 surveillance cameras, magnetometers to measure magnetic field fluctuations, radiation detectors, motion sensors, night vision cameras, and thermal imaging. And for all of that, this isn't just ghost hunters with EMF meters. This is a full-blown, privately funded scientific investigation. And you might be wondering, what did they find? Well, this is where it gets a bit murky. Reports that have trickled out over the years, many are still very much classified, hint at some jaw-dropping details. So here's what we do know. They discovered portals in the sky. Already I'm like, yes, I'm in. So one NIDS team allegedly watched a glowing hole appear mid-air, and inside it they saw a creature crawl out, drop to the ground, and then vanish. What? What is going on? Next up, they saw radiation spikes. So sensors picked up sudden, intense bursts of radiation. Sometimes they were strong enough to cause headaches, nausea, or even brain swelling in the humans on site. Something ain't right. Next thing that they came across was invisible forces. So camera equipment would get smashed, shredded, or yanked from mounts, but when the footage was reviewed, there's no attacker, no animal, and no explanation. Next up, they found orbs with intelligence. So these weren't, your random lights in the sky. They seemed to react to human presence, sometimes playfully, sometimes aggressively, and they were capable of shutting down electronics mid-flight. Whoa, so that's quite a few things to have found, and I don't know, is Skinwalker Ranch really talked about? I think it should be talked about a lot more. They found portals in the sky, radiation spikes, invisible forces, and orbs with intelligence. Why is this not more discussed? I have no idea. But it's about to get even weirder, right? Because Bigelow wasn't funding this just for kicks. The US government got involved. Classic US government. So this is where the Pentagon and Project AAWSAP started. So around 2008, Bigelow's ranch research got a major boost, thanks to the Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Weapon System Applications Program. The AAWSAP for short. The OWSAP. yeah, this is basically it. The OWSAP. Okay, I'm just going to call it the OWSAP from now on. The US Department of Defense quietly poured $22 million into researching the paranormal phenomena at Skinwalker Ranch. 22 million, guys, in 2008. Why? Because they weren't just worried about ghosts, they believed the phenomena might be connected to advanced technology, potentially a threat to national security. In quotation marks, everything that they want to cover up. Oh, national security. Yeah. So this wasn't just, some fringe idea. Senator Harry Reid, who was the Senate Majority Leader at the time, was a major backer of the project. He believed Skinwalker Ranch could hold clues about UFO propulsion systems, unknown energy fields, and exotic materials not found on Earth. But together, what did they really discover? So here's the kind of frustrating and suspiciously convenient part. Most of what OWSAP and Bigelow's team uncovered remains classified. Classic. The public never got a formal report. Classic. Scientists on the projects were bound by NDAs. Classic. But whispers and leaks suggest they encountered objects defying known physics, unexplained injuries sustained by personnel exposed to certain hotspots, and psychological effects such as sudden aggression, depression, paranoia, and all of this could sometimes happen after just spending a few days on the ranch. One insider famously said, "There's something on that ranch and it knows when you're watching." Close quote. So, what is going on? If you've got Bigelow, big money billionaire Bigelow, and then you've got the US government getting involved, and there's all of this OWSAP and things overlapping, and everyone's investigating this Skinwalker Ranch, what's going on? There's got to be definitely something that they've come across that we're just not aware of yet, and they haven't been declassified, and who knows if it ever will be, but it seems like a pretty solid place for kind of paranormal activity anyway, as well as kind of maybe something from a different dimension. I don't know, but you know, you got this billionaire buys the most paranormally active property in America. He fills it with scientists, military experts, and high-end surveillance. Then the Pentagon quietly funnels him $22 million, and after years of research, they all leave without telling the public what they found. Right. If that's not suspicious, I don't know what is. And also, imagine spending $22 million investigating ghost cows and alien orbs, and your final report just says, "Yeah, mate, it's a bit spooky. Good luck." Like, what? Yeah, mate, well, I don't know. Maybe they didn't find anything. Maybe that is the case. Maybe they're just kind of like, "Oh, we spent all this money, but nothing really happened, didn't get any evidence, so we just decided to move on." Could be. I doubt it, but it could be. One thing that really kind of stands out for me from that research and the kind of insiders that I have spoke out about it is the fact that they claim that this place kind of fights back. Skinwalker Ranch fights back. I find that really interesting and intriguing because many researchers reported that the ranch seems to be kind of reactive. So the more you study it, the more it hides. The more it kind of like, it hides. Also, the phenomena doesn't really behave like random natural events. They behave like something intelligent, something that only shows itself when it wants to. For example, cameras tend to fall right before the big event, or sensors pick up nothing until you turn them off, and sightings increase when the researchers leave the Skinwalker Ranch. It's as if the ranch itself is kind of controlling the show. It's being like, "Listen, I'm on my own time. Proper diva mode, you know? Like, yeah, no, I'll show up when I show up. I perform when I perform. And if your cameras are rolling, they're rolling. But don't stress me out. Just chill, bro." So, is it a haunted land? I don't know. An alien testing ground? A dimensional portal? I don't know. Or is it something that we can't even begin to define? Whatever it is, Bigelow's team couldn't crack it. So after nearly 2 decades, he gave up. After Bigelow's secret government research ran its course, you'd think Skinwalker Ranch would quietly fade back into the desert. But no, this is America. And nothing that weird, dangerous, and potentially money-making stays private for long. So say hello to Brandon Fugal. Brandon Fugal is a Utah real estate mogul, a bit of a celebrity businessman, and crucially, an unapologetic believer in the paranormal. So, in 2016, he bought Skinwalker Ranch from Bigelow. Because, like Bigelow, he was convinced there's something on that land worth discovering. But there is a difference. Bigelow's research happened behind closed doors. Fugal, on the other hand, brought in a full media production team. He turned the ranch into a televised research lab, complete with 24/7 surveillance, motion sensors, radiation detectors, a team of scientists, ex-military and engineers, and of course, a History Channel documentary series. Because if you're going to get abducted by interdimensional beings, you best do it in 4K with multiple camera angles and dramatic music. I mean, come on. So let's talk about the secret of Skinwalker Ranch the TV show, right? So it launched in 2020, and the show follows Fugel and his team as they investigate the ranch's mysteries. Every episode is packed with night vision footage, slow motion reactions, scientists looking worried, glitches on radiation scanners, drones going haywire, and regular scenes all the way throughout of the team going, okay, this really shouldn't be happening. Everybody, stay calm. I think we've got something, guys. Yeah, literally. So what are they claiming to see? Here's a quick rundown of what's been caught on camera and or at least hinted at. They came across unexplained aerial phenomena, the classic UFO-style lights and orbs above the ranch. That's caught on camera. Radiation spikes as well, so they also experienced sudden, intense bursts measured on sensors. They experienced a lot of equipment failures, drones crashing, cameras cutting out, GPS going mental. That one could be a bit skeptical. Also, they came across a few bits of time anomalies, so footage showing missing time or devices desyncing. And also they experienced their team members experiencing these headaches, nausea, and brain swelling as well. So it's all very, cinematic and TV friendly, which of course would spark a new debate. So is this research or is it entertainment? Some critics, of course, would say it's just a show, it's engineered for drama. They would argue that if there was anything truly groundbreaking, why would they release it through a reality show instead of a scientific journal? Classic critic, classic science nerd. But others, including Fugel himself, insist, no, we're doing real science here. We just happen to also have the cameras rolling. And to be fair, the team on the show includes legit scientists and aerospace engineers, but like everything with Skinwalker Ranch, the more you dig, the murkier it seems to get. And honestly, if you've ever watched the show, half the time you are kind of like, am I actually learning about mysteries of the universe right now, or am I just watching grown men slowly lose their sanity on live TV? Yeah. I don't know. I think it's always going to be skeptical, isn't it, when something's kind of a reality show, kind of like Ghost Hunters, Paranormal Activity Hunters, all the rest of it. You're kind of like, because they were all so exposed during like the mid 2000s of like all the tips and all the little tricks that they were doing with the string and all the kind of equipment that was reacting because of magnets, and because they were so exposed, it is hard to believe now that someone is capturing that kind of stuff on screen. And it's only going to get harder with AI and how easy it is now to manufacture videos and all the rest of it. So, but we can believe, we can always believe. But what if, right, this is going to be a bit out there, but what if the ranch itself, or the land, mate, let's go over the ranch. What about if the ranch itself is a living entity? What if the ranch itself is alive? It's not just kind of like a place where strange things happen. What if it's somehow aware? Which, it could highlight different patterns, like when it's only reacting to things, or researchers that are experiencing that their personal health effects as if it's been targeted towards them. The equipment failing at crucial moments, not just randomly. And, like more sightings happen when the attention decreases away from the Skinwalker Ranch. So what if it's not just a location, it's kind of an intelligence of itself, something conscious, something that wants to be noticed, but only on its own terms? Could be. But anyway, where do we stand today? So right now, the ranch is being heavily monitored. It's openly studied, but still it's privately owned, so don't go wandering onto the ranch. It's continuously producing interesting results, depending on how much you can trust the cameras. And it's still linked to theories about UFOs, interdimensional portals, ancient curses, military experimentations, and even ultra-terrestrials, which we will get into a little bit later on. But still, after decades of research, no one has been able to say exactly what is going on. So yeah, the Shermans ran from it. Bigelow poked at it with Pentagon money. Now Fugel and the History Channel are poking at it with scientists and cameras. And still the ranch just watches and waits. Alright, so we've arrived at the part of the episode where we can go full conspiracy mode. Because for every strange light in the sky, for every mutilated cow, for every unexplained blip on a radiation monitor at Skinwalker Ranch, there's a theory lurking right behind it. And you know, as always, we're not here to scoff at it. We're here to take each theory seriously, to see why it might be true, and to follow the evidence to see how deep the rabbit hole goes. Let's take a look. So theory number 1, we got it could potentially be a UFO base or an alien research station. Because when you do picture it, it's a lonely patch of Utah desert, miles away from any big city, surrounded by harsh terrain and sitting on top of what? A secret underground alien base. That's exactly what many researchers, locals and insiders believe. The evidence of this? Let's kick off with glowing orbs. So it's not fuzzy distant lights, but basketball-sized glowing orbs that float through the fields, dodge humans, and sometimes follow vehicles. Next we've got silent crafts, triangular black objects moving silently, defying wind, gravity, and known propulsion systems. Then we've got cattle mutilations, bodies drained of blood, organs removed with surgical precision, no struggle, no tracks, no predators. Investigators, including the Shermans, report dozens of animals killed this exact way. And you got the radiation spikes, so unexplainable bursts of radiation during sightings, sometimes strong enough to damage human tissue. So why would all of that combined make it believable? If you were an alien civilization conducting biological or geological research, wouldn't you pick a place far from prying eyes? And what if this particular site, Skinwalker Ranch, has been their landing zone or energy node for centuries? Think about it. Locals report sightings going back hundreds of years. The government got involved and kept their findings classified. Billionaires and military insiders keep spending fortunes to monitor it. Are they just chasing myths? Because it's an expensive myth if they are. Or do they know something we don't know? And if these aliens are using the ranch as a lab, how long have they been here? And is that why they can kind of manipulate the ranch? The ranch can kind of turn on, turn off, and they can kind of hide and disappear. And the portal that they found where a thing came out of it and vanished. What if with all these cameras, what if we're not watching them, but they're watching us? But honestly, if I was an alien, I don't know, I'd pick somewhere a bit more tropical, to be fair. But, maybe they just like dry weather and weird cows. Who knows? Next up, we got theory number 2. So, interdimensional portal. Let's turn up the sci-fi dial, because some investigators, including Pentagon insiders, believe Skinwalker Ranch isn't just weird, it's a window. A place where the fabric between dimensions is so thin that they can merge. The reports that back this one up are kind of the portals in the sky that we mentioned. Witnesses report circular openings appearing mid-air, sometimes revealing landscapes or skies that don't match the local environment. Then you've got creatures emerging from nowhere. The NIDS scientists once reported watching a large humanoid figure crawl out of a floating hole, step onto the ground, and vanish. On top of that, you've got time distortions, so GPS devices showing impossible travel distances, clocks desynchronizing, hours of missing time. Even seasoned military operatives reported feeling like they lost time on the ranch. And you've also got electromagnetic disturbances, so magnetic field spikes, sometimes strong enough to disable electronics or confuse animals. And this one was concentrated over a specific part of the property known as the Triangle. And the Triangle. So this is where is all the juicy stuff. So on the ranch, the triangle actually refers to a specific patch of land, roughly triangular in shape, that has become one of the main hotspots for bizarre and unexplained activity. It's marked by 3 points, and within this zone, investigators and researchers have repeatedly reported all the things I've mentioned so far. So your sudden equipment malfunctions, strange electromagnetic readings, bizarre light anomalies, animals behaving unusually or vanishing, and people experiencing that nausea, dizziness, or even sudden injuries like skin burns. So the triangle is where they've observed what some call the tear in the sky phenomena, like when the sky appears to ripple or open unnaturally. Some researchers, including those on the History Channel's The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, have launched rockets or drones over it, only to have them knocked off course, stopped mid-air, or even completely disappear. There's a theory floating around that the triangle is some kind of interdimensional gateway or portal, possibly explaining why there's such a weird variety of strange activities all overlapping in one place. So why has those 4 things caught my attention? Because quantum physics already suggests the possibility of multiple dimensions, and some scientists believe natural energy hotspots could act as rips or openings between them. If Skinwalker Ranch is one of those rare points, you're not dealing with UFOs, you're dealing with visitors from another layer of reality. Think of it, beings that pop in, observe, interact, and slip away, because to them, we're the anomaly. And maybe the reason we can't pin down what's happening at Skinwalker Ranch is because it's not meant to stay here. If this is a dimensional portal, imagine what's slipping through on the other side. Next up, we got theory number 3, ancient curses. So let's step away from the aliens and the physics for a second and go back to what I mentioned at the start of the episode. Because long before Bigelow or Brandon Fugel showed up, this land was already feared by the tribe Navajo, by the Uintah, by generations of indigenous people who knew better than to trespass on the land. They talked about the Skinwalker folklore, the witches who have gained the power to transform, to curse, and to harm. They talked about massive wolf-like creatures. And actually, the Shermans reported multiple encounters with those giant wolves that shrugged off bullets, showed no fear, and disappeared without a trace. You got the paranormal activity that happens on this site, the classic signs of spiritual disturbance, doors slamming, objects moving, voices in empty rooms, shadow figures watching from every corner. And you've got land avoidance here, there, and everywhere. The Ute tribe, whose reservation borders the ranch, explicitly warn outsiders not to enter the land, calling it cursed. So as we discuss this one, Western science often dismisses spiritual explanations, but indigenous cultures have recognized spiritual power in the land for centuries. What if the ranch is not a scientific anomaly, but a spiritual battleground, a place where dark rituals, ancient curses, and restless entities still roam? And if this theory is right, no amount of cameras, sensors, or Pentagon funding can possibly solve that, because it isn't a puzzle to crack, it's a warning to stay away. And honestly, if I'm about to get onto a piece of land and some tribe leader's like, this place is cursed, don't go on it, skinwalkers, giant wolves, aliens, people go missing, cows get dissected, yeah, I'm out of there. No scientific curiosity here, sorry, just vibes and survival instinct. I'm out. So theory number 4, we've got military experiments and cover-ups. We have to talk about our favourite people as always, the government. So some researchers and a lot of online chatter believe Skinwalker Ranch isn't a paranormal hotspot at all. It's yet another military playground. Aspects that would point towards evidence of this is the radiation bursts, so they could be testing directed energy weapons. You got magnetic anomalies, possibly advanced stealth or cloaking tech, triangular craft sightings, which could be consistent with the alleged TR-3B Black Manta, a top-secret US military anti-gravity craft. Then you got the government involvement. Why would the Pentagon pour $22 million into studying this place under the OWLSAP program, and then keep the findings classified afterwards? And of course, what they do best is that confusion, cover story, distraction technique. If you are testing black projects and people think that they're seeing ghosts and UFOs, it's the perfect cover. Make everyone feel like they're crazy. Don't report on it. Don't cover it. And see what happens. Governments hide weapons testings all the time, so it kind of could be believable that this is just another testing site. They've done it for decades, and the US military has both the resources and the motive to keep public eyes looking in the wrong direction. Well, better misdirection than alien orbs and paranormal wolves. And it's the classic magician's trick. While we're all looking at the shiny light in the sky, the real trick is happening underground or somewhere else. And on that note, I don't think there's any more to say about that, because I feel like we're all in agreement on that. So let's move on to theory number 5, and possibly my favourite theory, ultra-terrestrials. So these are hidden Earth beings. Now this one had me into the deep conspiracy world, let me tell you. So the ultra-terrestrial theory says, forget aliens, forget spirits. These are native Earth beings. Not humans, not animals, but something else entirely. Something that's always been here, just outside our perception. So, what kind of things have happened that would back this up? Well, you've got the intelligent behavior. Orbs that avoid detection, react to human presence, and seem to kind of play with observers. You've got shape-shifting forms, so from wolves to humanoids to shadowy entities, the manifestations change form kind of fluidly. And there's also like a non-linear timeline that comes with it, because events on the ranch often unfold in ways that break cause and effect, as if the entities exist outside our reality's timeline. And you've got global echoes that come with it. Similar reports of intelligent hidden beings appear across world mythologies. Fae folk, jinn, nature spirits, shadow people. So, looking outside of kind of human arrogance, which says, we know what's on our planet, we are the top of the food chain, we perceive everything and blah, blah, blah. But really, we barely scratch the surface. If other intelligent life shares this planet in parallel, underground, or in energy forms we just can't fully see, it would explain why they don't come from the stars, they come from here. And maybe Skinwalker Ranch is one of the few places where the veil kind of thins and they slip through. So not extraterrestrial, not paranormal, but Earth's original secret inhabitants. And if they have been watching us this whole time, I'm so sorry they had to witness TikTok. Alright, so we've gone through the evidence, we've chased every theory, we've stood at the edge of the ranch and looked into the abyss. Now here's the big question. What do I, Ash, your charmingly suspicious podcast host, actually think is happening at Skinwalker Ranch? Let me walk you through it. So, for me, there's a few pieces that don't seem to fit. Here's what's strange. You got the UFOs. Real, documented, multi-witness events. Then you've got the cattle mutilations. They were backed by veterinary reports and police investigations. You got, what else was there? The energy spikes and the radiation bursts, which, are measured by scientists, and they're telling you that this is not normal, these are anomalies. And then you've got, the human health effect, right? The CT scans and the blood works actually show injuries on these people. So it's becoming a little bit less kind of folklore and more kind of a measurable, physical, persistent thing. And yet after decades of government funding, the Billionaires research, the show on History Channel, and I'm sure there's been a bunch of independent investigation as well, no one's been able to crack the case. So no one's pulled up an alien aircraft, no one's opened an interdimensional portal, and no one's dispelled an ancient curse or anything like that. So here's where I land. I don't think that Skinwalker Ranch is particularly or specifically one thing. I don't think that it is just a UFO hotspot or a cursed land. I also don't think it's a military testing ground. It could well and truly be kind of some living system. A site where multiple layers of phenomena overlap, interact, maybe evolve together, I guess. Don't know, maybe there's multiple layers to it. Maybe one layer is kind of an ancient energy. Like the land itself is kind of special. Because you've got all the tribes saying, don't go there. And these tribes have been there for centuries and centuries. They've obviously seen a lot of stuff over the years. So is there something really special about this patch of the Uintah Basin? The magnetic fields, ley lines, fault zones, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but that create these kind of natural windows. And then I think the second layer would be some type of external visitor. If the first layer is an ancient energy, then maybe the second layer is kind of like a visitor who senses this energy or is attracted to this energy. Something, whether it's aliens or ultra-terrestrials or interdimensional beings, maybe they've come there to use that place. Maybe they're drawn to the energy. Maybe they need the energy. Maybe they created the energy. That could also be. Because I don't feel like the phenomena that has been seen, the crafts and the orbs and the entities and the shape-shifting and all the rest of it, I don't think that's random. I think that is part of a long-running interaction that has been had on this land and something else. And if that is the case, I think that would kind of create another layer, which is the third layer, of the human interference has made something worse or has kind of disrupted this energy communication between the land and the beings. Because I think in the last 50 years or so, with Bigelow and the other guy, maybe they've poked at it, like they poked the hornet's nest. You got the Shermans, and then, first you had like the Shermans, then you had the Bigelow and he brought in like Pentagon money and all this military tech, and then you got this Brandon Fugel who's brought in TV and cameras and scientists. And I feel like the more that we observe the place, the more it reacts and kind of stops reacting and goes, I'll show what I want to show you in my time when it's not being watched. So maybe it's pushing back. Maybe the real danger is not kind of what we discover from it, but more that it could be watching us. Like waiting to decide whether we're smart enough or stupid enough, and then we'll kind of react. Like maybe it's evolving with the fact that we're observing it, so it's starting to observe us globally through technology. Could be. I don't know. I think that's where I sit though. I think it's kind of a mix of the land being full of energy, attracting something that's kind of interdimensional that has been interacting with this land for centuries. Then we've kind of got involved as humans and kind of thrown it off a bit, and now they're using it to observe us and the way that we live, and maybe planning on something. I don't know. There are some unanswerable questions though, I guess, which I want to throw to you guys. Why do you think no one has ever captured definitive proof of what's happening at Skywalker Ranch? Skywalker Ranch. Told you guys, I'm obsessed with Star Wars. And I don't know how many times I've said Skywalker Ranch. I've probably been calling it Skywalker Ranch the whole way through. Anyway, why has no one captured definitive proof of anything happening at Skinwalker Ranch? And also, why does every investigation end with more questions? And why do the most dangerous events seem to happen off camera just out of reach. It's kind of like the ranch knows. I don't know how to explain it. It's like it's alive, like not in the sense of a consciousness that we would understand, but as a system that kind of monitors and adjusts and shapes what we experience there. And, you know, the more we probe it, the more it learns how to hide. I don't think we'll ever get a full disclosure on this, not from the government anyway. Not from the billionaires, and I doubt the ranch itself is going to start revealing itself all of a sudden now if it's hid itself for centuries. I don't know if it's a mystery to be solved, in a sense. Maybe it's kind of a mirror showing us how little we really know about the universe and how little we know about our own planet, about physics, about reality, and what might be waiting just beyond that veil. And the truth is, maybe we're not ready to know. But I'm just one suspicious little podcast host, so what do I know? And that's it for today's episode of Conspiracy. So what do you think? Do you believe the ranch is an alien base, a cursed land, a military cover-up, or something else entirely? As always, if you've got your own theories or stories, drop me a DM or message me on socials. Get involved in the comments on Spotify or YouTube. You can find me on TikTok and Instagram @conspiracy, or email me conspiracy@gmail.com. So go ahead, drop the first comment and get the conversation started. Conspiracy. This has been Conspiracy. I've been Ash. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with your mates, and leave us a review. That last one is so important, guys. And until next time, keep asking questions, keep digging, and remember, the truth is out there.